What is more dangerous than people think? Steam. I work in power plants. Not scared of anything else I'm around, and I use explosives for work, but heck steam. Hydraulic systems. 3000 psi hydraulics won't even hesitate to remove your limbs. Adding to that, a leak in a hose under pressure can result in a nearly invisible 5,000 to 10,000 pound spray of hydraulic fluid depending on the application. It can punch straight through flesh and tends to follow bones when it gets inside. It's corrosive, so you can't just leave it. Everything it touches has to be irrigated. This can include cutting along the path of the injection injury, opening the wound, and spraying it out with saline solution. Needless to say, if you have to have that done, recovery takes a while. Not getting it done will mean your tissue being destroyed and potentially losing the affected body parts. In the Navy, we were always told a legend of a guy who tried to stop a hydraulic leak with his finger and pumped his arm full of hydraulic fluid. Cows. Cows kill a lot of people each year compared to the scary animals. I lived next to a small cow farm growing up. 99.9% of the time they were docile and sweet, and you could go right up to the fence and feed them. But just one time I saw the bull get actually mad, not posturing and showing off for his ladies, and he cracked the fence post we were standing on the other side of. We stopped feeding the cows for a while after that. I'm going to bet it's because of their huge size and the total number of daily interactions humans have with them compared to other animals. I mean, a bison could crush you without a moment's thought, but when's the last time you saw a bison? Exactly. Cheerleading. People get a ton of injuries doing that. Apparently throwing people around and stacking them on top of each other is not always a good idea. A girl I went to high school with got an orbital fracture from a catch going wrong and the other girl's elbow smacking down on her eye. I haven't heard of that happening in any other high school sport. Not getting enough sleep. I went through a period of bad insomnia, like no more than 1 hour a night if I was lucky enough to even get that. I couldn't even function. It literally felt like I was going insane. I couldn't sleep for several days while visiting my family, and on the way back home I was sitting on the airplane wondering why I was flying to that city. It took me several seconds to remember that I lived there. In the end I decided that I had been not dead tired when I bought the plane tickets, so it was probably okay. Still scary, it felt like I was drunk and befuddled. Hiking by yourself. Seriously, last year, a guy I grew up with disappeared. The local area has numerous hiking spots, some that can be a bit dicey. Long story short, he fell and died. The saddest part was he obviously was knocked unconscious or died instantly, because he was only a 5 to 10 minute hike from the nearest access point road, and he did have his phone on him. Still, he wasn't found for days when he was missing. Be safe out there, folks. You don't need to be in the middle of nowhere to have a fatal accident. There's a park near Colorado Springs where they strap a GPS locator on your wrist before you can go hiking, mountain climbing. It saves the rescue teams a shitload of time and trouble. 20 to 30 years ago, a bunch of Coloradans went backcountry skiing when there were avalanche warnings. The leader said he could get them through it. They were trapped by an avalanche, and the state spent thousands of dollars to rescue them. It even got into People magazine, I think. The skiers thought they were brave survivors, but other Coloradans, including me, were enraged that they wasted so much money and endangered the rescue crew after they had been told not to go skiing. They coughed up some money to repay the crew. I'm a frequent and relatively experienced hiker, both alone and with others. While this is extremely true, being safe hiking is about risk mitigation. Always let someone know where you're going and when you'll be back. Pack enough gear to survive a stormy cold night outside, wear appropriate footwear, have maps and a GPS with battery backup, flashlights with extra batteries. Bring more water and food than you think you need. And for the love of God, if you're hiking or climbing somewhere exposed and the weather forecast or clouds look gnarly, turn back. Google the 10 essentials for a good intro to this. You'll never eliminate the risk of a freak fall or something like that. But with proper gearing, risk mitigation, and basic awareness of your surroundings, you'll drop the chances of something bad happening to you substantially. Pregnancy and giving birth. When you learn how many ways being pregnant can kill you, it makes you realize how much of a miracle it is that our species has survived. This is exactly why I'll never change my mind that pregnancy should be 100% voluntary and not forced via legislation. There are many ways pregnancy can kill you or cause negative lifelong issues. People should have the option to not go through that. I always think this when I hear a friend planning a natural home birth. It's like, OMG, please at least get a midwife if you won't go to hospital. A few years ago, one of my friends died because he climbed a pile of logs. The logs started rolling over him. Don't do that. Please. Oh man, that sounds horrifying. I'm sorry he, and you, went through that. Burning PVC. If someone throws some old PVC siding, the fake plastic stuff they put on houses, into a fire, if you inhale the smoke and gas, your lungs are ruined and you are pretty much a dead man. Burning plastics in general emits nasty thick black smoke that is full of harmful carcinogens. 2 to 3 breaths of it will make you unconscious. You can gather quite a bit of information about a fire from the smoke. Please check your smoke alarms, people, they save lives. Also, PVC fragments don't show up on X-rays, so if you are working with pressurized PVC, potato cannon perhaps, and the thing ruptures, you now have lots of shrapnel in you that cannot be easily found. Electricity. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, but that motherfucker can kill you. I learned that the hard way when I was a kid. Now, as a grown-ass adult, I stay the fuck away from anything that could put me in close or direct contact with electricity. You can't smell electricity. However, when electricity forms plasma arcs or burns material, it oftentimes creates ozone, which has a very distinct smell that I can best describe as burning electrical smell. And if you smell it, it's probably a good idea to figure out where it's coming from before too late. Garage door springs. The spring is under constant tension. A sudden failure can cause the spring to break apart violently. When I was a kid around 13, I changed the garage spring with my dad, and only halfway through the process did he tell me that if I messed up and let go of the metal tube holding the spring that we would probably both die. Should have given me a fucking warning beforehand, Dad. Minor impact on the calves, like missing a step, tore an Achilles this way. Listen, if you feel like you kinda pulled your calf, please get that checked out. Don't be an idiot, like me, and think it's general soreness and continue running improperly, which is how it got pulled to begin with, or working out. I ended spending 14 weeks doing physical therapy, developed plantar fasciitis in both feet, and still to this day have pain while walking up steep hills or down multiple flights of stairs. It's been about 4 years now. Take care of your calves. This seems like a stupid answer, but black bears. For some reason, people associate black bears with being timid and safe to be around. Sure, they are less aggressive than a grizzly or polar bear, but they are still bears and should be avoided when possible. I used to live in an area that had an abundance of black bears and seasonal tourists. I have had to tell people that the bears aren't nice, and to keep their kids away. Feeding bears is a huge no, but people do that too, stupidly associating themselves as a food source. This is not a stupid answer. You know how they tell you to play dead if a grizzly attacks you? That's because grizzlies don't typically view humans as prey. If one attacks, it's almost certainly a mother defending its cubs, and will move away if it stops perceiving you as a threat. This is not so with black bears, who are extremely opportunistic omnivores. If a black bear attacks you, there's a good chance it wants to eat you, and a black bear that wants to eat you absolutely will not stop trying to eat you until it is shitting you out the next morning. Playing dead will only make it easier for the bear to have dinner. You fight that fucker with everything you have. Don't fuck with them. I was visiting family when a bear wandered into the town and prompted a whole day of searches and schools being shut down. It was a densely populated area, so it was assumed that the bear was scared and hiding, which will make it more dangerous. Took 12 hours to chase it out. At a Boy Scout camp I went to, some kids left food out to purposely attract bears. They came into the site after the kids left for merit badges and destroyed 20 tents, and broke expensive equipment such as camp stoves. The bears kept coming back the rest of the week for food and eventually were shot. They're not hard to avoid normally. They live deep in forests and are scared of humans. Usually just waving your arms and yelling will scare one off. But if they're hungry, you're screwed. Horse riding. Actually, handling a moody 500 kilograms animal can easily lead you to broken bones. In this sport, we all know some people who will spend their life in a wheelchair. I was riding with my family when I was 12. We were a ride for fun, horseback riding family. Something spooked the horse and it threw me off into a fence, and I barely escaped with my life. 2 months in the ICU with fractured spine, collapsed lung, ruptured spleen, concussion, stitches, and other injuries. I was wearing a helmet and had had training. Definitely dangerous when it goes wrong. I heard the best way to make sure a horse won't hurt you is to quietly approach it from behind and pinch it really hard on the butt. He will respect your stealth and courage, or kick you in the chest so hard your ribs come out your back. A little bit of flood water covering the road. Hydroplaning is scary. In college, my roommate, a few people from my floor, and I went out for dinner. It was pouring. I was driving my little car and we came to a spot that you couldn't tell was covered in water. We started hydroplaning. I stayed calm somehow. Every other person in my car started screaming their heads off. They couldn't believe I stayed calm through it all. Best part is we got back to campus. I dropped them off in front of the dorm, and then went to find a parking spot. On my walk alone back to the dorm, I fell down the hill and got a concussion. Again, calm as can be, walked into my room covered in mud and soaking wet. They're all freaking out and I'm acting like it's any old day. Living downstream of an old dam that hasn't been properly maintained. Measuring tape like the metal strip kind that contractors use. My older brother's one got jammed, and without warning while he was trying to get it to retract, it suddenly and rapidly retracted while he was holding it, and lacerated his finger to the bone. Now half his finger is numb and immobile, and it bled a ton. What is more dangerous than people think? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.